Well, hello there, and welcome to the Gamers Roundtable. This is episode 70. We're talking about games. If you've never joined in with us before, welcome, and we hope that you'll join in discussion with us as we have a live Q&A at the side. Or you can actually comment at the bottom. I got a comment tracker. I'll be able to see everything that you're talking about there, but we'd love if you join in the conversation with us. But to know who you're talking to, I'm going to go down the line and say hello to everyone. So we're going to start off there with Charles this time. Hello, Charles. Thanks for joining.
Hi.
Hello. And next to Charles, we've got Braden. Hello, Braden.
Greetings.
Greetings.
How do you do?
Just dandy, dandy.
Marvelous.
And at the other end there, at least on my screen, we've got the wonderful ad block, just blocking all our ads for us, keeping us safe. The President of Canada. Thanks for joining us.
You're welcome.
That joke's never gonna get old.
Adam
just doesn't get old in general.
No. And myself, I'm LeafX, host of the show here. I'm going to talk about today, bring up some topics and discussions, and we'll let everybody talk about these things and have some nice, lighthearted or deep discussions about video games and video games. So if we're going to start off with some news, actually what we've been playing this week, then some news, some discussion, and we're going to finish off with our topic. Our topic this week is the three most disappointing games. To us personally, is a personal list, so all of our lists should differ. Or maybe there's one game we all really just were super sad about. But I'm going to start at the other end this time and just see what we've been playing this week. Mr. President, what have you been getting into this week?
Sorry, I was busy typing an insult at someone.
That's our president.
Well, picked up Mortal Kombat X, played through the story mode, played like 20 minutes in training mode, and then did that silly little tournament yesterday. That's pretty much it for gaming, other than randomly touching a few things on my 3DS, like there's this thing from the last Nintendo Direct, I think, which was the little block puzzle game they made.
Okay, yeah.
I downloaded that. And it's alright, it's just kind of tutorial stage after tutorial stage, so... Nintendo, they can't go hard on you because they think you're a child.
Everyone that plays their systems is a child.
Yeah, well that's my gaming this week. And I've been too busy getting mad at online news about games. To actually play games.
Fair enough. You don't want to start playing games when you're frustrated, because then you'll just get frustrated more.
Oh yeah, Guilty Gear, etc. You know,
life. All right. So next thing we've got Braden. Braden, what have you been playing this week?
Actually, I've been playing Mortal Kombat X as well. Sadly, not on my own copy, but I played it yesterday, and it was a lot of fun at LP. I didn't do very well, but I beat Nilo a couple games, which is something I could never even dream of doing in Street Fighter. So, I mean, that means something, I suppose.
I think it helps that it's a newer game, so we're all kind of going into it fresh, right? No.
Yeah.
So I actually still did terribly bad. Super bad. So
yeah, I know. In tournament, I got wrecked. Joey is so good at that game. But yeah, anyways. I was playing
MKX.
MKX. I was playing that, and my usual. Just a couple hours ago, I was playing it, and I realized I really liked that game.
Playing what? Sorry, you cut out just as you tried to say it.
Sorry, Fallout 3.
That's your choice, your island choice.
It's one of my island choices. It's a good game.
Fair enough. And I'm going to presume, Charles, you haven't been playing MKX. It doesn't seem like something that you'd be into, but let's see if you can keep the streak going. What have you been playing this week?
Not MKX. I'm sorry, I failed you all. I recently picked up a controller for my PC. Finally.
There you go.
After all this time. Brody's super disappointed that I didn't pick up a PS4.
Yep.
I have a Wiimote somewhere. Yeah, you can't use your Wiimote with your computer unless you hack it. And
I don't know why.
No, you just need a Bluetooth adapter and then it'll work.
Yeah, no thanks.
Hacks.
That-
Is there
that sounds
really
like
any
too much
reason
work.
you'd want to?
Too much work. Too much work. I prefer it to be easier. And I played about 15 minutes of I Am Bread. Fell in a sink and died, and just hung it back up, and have been too busy to do anything else with it. And otherwise, I've been playing Dota.
Okay, tell me more about this I Am Bread. I haven't heard of
here we
this. It
go.
sounds interesting.
Okay, so I want to say that it would remind some people of you know the grip meter in Shadow of Colossus. It's got that.
Okay.
And you control the four corners of your piece of bread, and you use it to grip surfaces and like sort of shuffle your bread body in directions, and you try not to get dirty, and your objective is to become toast.
That's a bit, yeah.
Apparently, there's a story. Once again, I played the tutorial and about 15 minutes. Then I fell in a sink and died, and haven't
Dude,
played
the
it
story
since
is that
because
you
I've been
want to
too
be
busy.
toast.
Hold on, guys. Do you always land butter side up?
I'm not a buttered piece of bread, so I don't know. I know. There's no option for buttering yourself. Maybe that's a DLC.
That's going on my bottom 3 list. That's going on.
Most things on planet.
You're just not buttered toast.
Oh, that's amazing. Adblock over there's actually got a good point when he says he wrote it down that it seems to be one of those made for YouTubers games, and it's kind of true. Like you look at what was it, a Surgeon Simulator, Octodad, you got that archery, probably archery. All these games that are just ridiculously difficult to control something. Leaves for great reaction videos, and that's something you see on YouTube. I wonder if developers are keeping that in mind. Like, if that's, do you think that's an actual thing? Hey, let's make something that will self-propel itself on the YouTubes, or if they're just doing it because it's ridiculous. I wonder if that's a driving point behind some developers.
I think it maybe
For I Am
started.
Bread.
It is that. It
I Am
maybe
Bread?
started.
I think I know what he's saying, but he's cutting out.
Sorry, am I
Yeah,
cutting out?
yeah.
Sorry. I think it started as as like trying to be silly and just doing the dumbest thing you can do, making a video game, but it sort of devolved into these are really popular on YouTube. Let's make something like that.
True. That makes
I think
sense.
it could have gone the entirely other way too. It's hard to tell.
Yeah.
Where it was not.
It may have started as a YouTube game and turned into a reeler game, or started as a reeler game and turned into a YouTube design game. I don't know.
That's true. I never really thought about it though. That could be a something that a company would strive to develop, just like this game. Or
Okay,
maybe
Brody.
yeah.
I don't know the specific game, but the phrase you're getting caught up on is company or developers. This could be one guy in a shack with LSD.
I guess.
I feel like these probably started as like computer science student projects, and like
Yeah, maybe.
eventually
And
people,
somebody's like.
and then
fucking
eventually
around
people were
with it and-
it's like, this is hilarious. I'm gonna put it on YouTube.
Or
It's like 2005 and nobody knows what YouTube is, and
somebody made they made a test game in Unity and they made it something funny, so they were having fun and would finish it. And then when they finished their little test game, they're like, I could sell this and get on the YouTubes.
Yeah, that's true.
Probably that.
Anyways, I want to try this game now because it sounds like my kind of game.
It sounds like the props game that you were playing last week, Brody.
Yeah, Prop Hunt. Yeah, Prop Hunt. My girlfriend's been obsessed with that game recently. It's a silly little game. Just you guys know what Prop Hunt is, right? It's in Gary's mod. For people that don't, where you transform into you have the hunters and then the props, and the props transform into items in the surrounding area, and just try to hide themselves and not get shot by the hunters. So they just hide as like a can or a chair or a bed or whatever. It's silly little fun in Gary's mod. All right, and I guess that comes over to me then. I'm gonna stay on the train of playing Mortal Kombat because that's what I've been doing this week. Yeah, I've actually I don't know. There's something to do with a lot of the other FGC games that I respect them and I appreciate them, but I just can't get into them. But with Mortal Kombat I can. I don't know what it is. It just.
Have you been playing online?
No.
So there you go. There you go. The offline mode of Mortal Kombat is very fulfilling compared to most other fighting games.
Okay, that's probably it then. Because yeah, I went into the story. And I was actually surprised that, like, it was cool, interesting how they did it. You know, it's cutscenes and you go into the fight, but it's the story unfolding. I was actually impressed by that. It took me off guard because I was going in kind of with the idea that this is an FGC game. You know, it's just gonna have you're just gonna play against bots or your friends and go into training mode. But there's, like you said, there's a lot more content.
Yeah, so like it was the same with MK9 on the 360 and PS3. And later PC, where they gave it a story mode that was actually good and fun and fulfilling, and they had all this extra other content like the crypt and the challenge tower and stuff like that didn't have much to do with the main game. And it puts other companies like Capcom to shame, where it's like, well, if NRS can do this, why can't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love it. And I hope some other companies maybe will pick up. I mean, probably not, since it's already, as you said, MK9 did it, and no one else added this kind of stuff to it. I mean, we haven't seen much on like Street Fighter 5 or anything, but I don't suspect we'll see this kind of stuff.
So when MK9 came out, Ono, the director for Street Fighter, the series, basically, said like it amazed him and stuff, and he would want to do something like that in the future. So who knows?
Mm-hmm. That'd be good. I think it's definitely, like, if you're gonna, sure, you're making a game for competitive players, but you know it's such a small percentage of the gaming market that you should be creating content for other regular people to get into, right?
Yeah.
I think it'd be silly not to.
I think one of the problems is that like Capcom gives Ono and his team no budget, and they've been constricting that over time because they sort of want him gone and stuff like that. Mm. And it might be similar to other developers like Namco or SNK. I don't know. Another one who's good at offline content is Arc System Works for like Guilty Gear and stuff. You got a decent amount of content. So it shows that it's not like a cultural thing necessarily. So I don't know. Let's just hope Capcom pulls the stick out of their butt.
Yeah, hopefully.
Probably not. Probably not.
I think even outside of the single player content though, I just picked up Mortal Kombat a lot. It felt a lot easier to sort of pick up and understand than Street Fighter always has for me.
I think once I actually started looking at some of this stuff, I'm like, okay, this is a little complicated. There's a lot of memorizing like combos and stuff. But then I was watching Twitch streams though, and I started seeing I'm watching people make up their own combos. Like these strings are like 20 hit combos, and I'm like, there's no button presses in the move list for this. You can kind of make your own combos there, but. Yeah.
It is actually, it's not really different from Street Fighter in that in Mortal Kombat you have the combo list, which is the dedicated chains, like jab, jab, hard punch, or whatever is a combo for Scorpion or something. And then cancel that into a special with meter, and that lets you do another chain after of your choosing. It's actually not different in Street Fighter in that you can do the same thing, and they have a way for you to do it universally, but it's not as clear, and most characters don't have any real chains. You have to time the combos, so it's like not so good. But a game that's very close to that is Street Fighter Cross Tekken. Lets you get the best of both worlds there. It's a shame it wasn't a good game.
Okay, so yeah, that makes sense. And for why MK seems kind of more, I guess, familiar to me than some of the other ones.
Dial a combo makes sense when you see it. It's like press these buttons and it happens. That makes sense to you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I also like the idea of, again, as I said, just kind of making your own combos afterwards. But I'm gonna have to ask you after too how to do all that canceling stuff, because I'm still not super knowledgeable on FGC games that much that I can jump in and start doing crazy stuff. I can just have fun with them. Okay, yeah. So Mortal Kombat. That's pretty much what's taking up my time. Jump back into a little bit of Call of Duty Advanced Warfare. Realize I love that game still. My guilty pleasure, I guess. Yeah, a lot of Mortal Kombat. So with that, we're going to get into some of the news pieces here. And again, remember, viewers, feel free to join in the live Q&A or in the YouTube comments and chat with us, and we'll answer your stuff if you have questions about our ability.
You can mail Leaf X directly.
Send some snail mail. We'll stay on air until I get it. Don't you worry.
We'll address it 2 podcasts from now.
No, we're just not going off. This is a marathon we're doing. Heroes of the Storm, Charles. I'm pretty sure this would interest you
Yes.
more so than some others of us. Heroes of the Storm is launching on June 2nd, and the open beta starts on the 19th of May. So I just wanted to give that a shout out to you. Heroes of the Storm. That's the one. That's all the Blizzard characters.
Yeah,
right?
that's all
Okay.
the Blizzard stuff.
So it's basically Dota, but actually by Blizzard.
Not quite. Yes, you're playing a character. Yes, you have a set amount of abilities. Yes, you have a base and respawn timer, and yes, you have the objectives of knocking down the enemy base. But Heroes of the Storm is more like mini game sort of, as opposed to like the straight tournament style or that you would expect from Dota.
Minigame
like-
in the sense that it's, sorry to interrupt you. Minigame in the sense that it's shorter games or different objectives.
Well, they're shorter games, but each map, there are multiple maps, have other objectives that you can do.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not the same map every time, like you would see with Dota. There's, I think, half a dozen maps right now, where there's like, if you collect certain secondary objectives, you get some sort of advantage against the enemy team for a short period of time, something like that.
Okay.
Like if you collect a certain number of coins or whatever and turn them all in, then an NPC in the middle will bombard the enemy base.
Okay.
For you.
So do you think this is gonna take over a lot of people from League or Dota, or is this just gonna be an additional one people play?
Probably not. It's a lot more lighthearted than Dota, so it's probably not going to turn into sort of a tournament sort of thing. It's probably going to be a fun thing that people who play those tournament games would do on the side.
Okay, so in between their Dota matches, they'll be playing this.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Okay. Cool. Yeah. So just to recap again, that's June 2nd is when it's launching. Open beta is on the 19th of May, so if people want to get on that. Now I saw this interesting gameplay called, I think it was "Don't Let Senpai See You." I thought
That's the video of Yandere.
Yandere,
Isn't
yeah, that's
isn't it "Don't Let Senpai Notice You" or something like that?
Don't
Yeah,
let
yeah,
Senpai
yeah,
know.
That's the joke. Yeah.
I have no idea about that whole culture, these jokes or anything. I just thought it was hilarious. Just the trailer that I'm gonna post it into the showcase. I think, and so people can watch it. But the trailer is just hilariously laid out. Just I couldn't tell if it was serious or not. um, just in its sense of humor. But it was the funniest thing. Instead of having senpai notice you, you don't want him to notice you.
Yeah. So, do you know what a yandere is, Brody?
No, that's what I'm saying. I'm not
Okay.
super cultured in that.
So poor man's very quick definition. It's like a girl who's attracted to a guy to the point of murderous obsession, where like, oh, another chick's looking at you, I'll cut her head off and stab you for letting her look at you,
Okay.
and stuff like that.
So that
Like extreme obsession.
okay, so that makes sense to what I saw in this trailer.
So the idea is that he's making Yandere Simulator, which is just like a Hitman game where you're a Yandere girl or a Yandere-chan, and you're trying to get senpai's affections and prevent other girls from getting in with them.
All right.
So if you watch the other gameplay videos, it's like you're murdering other girls and dragging them off into dumpsters and stuff, and selling panty shots of them to a pervert for money to get more stuff to pursue your murderous intentions.
18 plus.
Yeah.
This stream is 18 plus.
Yeah, I was gonna say this game is.
So it got one of its videos with the panty shots taken off of YouTube because people spammed it with takedown notices, even though there's actually games on like the Vita where that's the objective.
Yeah.
And they're still up. So it's like people got super offended at the idea of this game and started trying to get the videos taken down. It was pretty funny.
I don't know. I the way I'm looking at it is a very lighthearted game. I wouldn't be taking it seriously.
It's one of those like culture clash things, right?
Yeah. Anyways, that's in the showcase. If you viewers, if you want to take a look at that, so you know what we're talking about there, if you haven't seen it. One I'm interested in. I've always loved the series Guitar Hero. As we know, Guitar Hero and Rock Band both announced new games to come out on the next generation.
So silly. So silly.
I don't know. I love it. Now, if you guys haven't seen it, I posted you guys earlier in the week the reveal trailer for Guitar Hero Live.
Holy shit, man!
I'll finish it and then I'll get to your whatever you're gonna laugh at it about. So they changed up the guitar. So there's now 6 buttons, and they're on top of each other. So there's 3 on the top, 3 on the bottom. So when you're playing, I actually like it because it's a lot more like playing guitar chords. Your fingers, there's 3 lanes in the game, and the guitar pick will point either up or down in each lane, depicting which button you should be pressing. So if the pick's up, you press the top one. Pick's down, you press the bottom one. So it's a lot more like real guitar chords. So I think that's interesting. But yeah, the take they have on it is that you're playing in front of a live audience that will change and react based on how you're playing. So that's the gist of it. Adam, go.
Oh, I don't have a gist of it. I just like saw, I don't know if it was a video or a series of screenshots, but like the live crowd footage that they were trying to use.
Mm-hmm.
What the fuck?
That's the game now. It's Guitar Hero Live. So the idea is
they must have like tens of hours of footage, or this is just gonna be awful.
Yeah, and that was what else, because if they have multiple venues, plus they have to have a good track and a bad track for each song.
Well, like you need to transition, right? You need to transition from the fans liking you to them booing you,
yeah,
right?
So apparently what happens is the screen actually just sort of blurs out for a second and fades into the other video.
Oh, that's awful.
So,
well, I'll reserve judgment.
Until the play. I mean, I'm not going to base my judgment on the game based off the background that's playing. I'm going to put my judgment towards the gameplay. But...
Hold on, man. Like, that was part of the style, though, was the crowd and stuff. This isn't like Forza, where having the pictures of real people doesn't matter so much because you're going too fast to see it. You're, like, looking at the screen the whole time now.
Yeah, but you're also looking at the notes coming by, right? So how much are you going to notice the people in the audience?
Well, if they're now blurry monsters, I don't know.
I guess if it's like a big blurring that happens, then it's going to be more noticeable. But they could probably do it subtly.
You know what it should be? It should be a like Final Fantasy battle transition.
Yeah, just kind of like full on fade in, zoom in, and everything. I'm gonna try to post the. I'm not going to try. I am going to post the YouTube video to our showcase here, so people can watch and see what we're talking about, and see how it's a live audience that you're playing in front of.
Charles,
What?
Yeah.
is this the game that will get you to buy a next-gen console? Go.
No.
Mortal Kombat might be that game, actually.
No, this will not
There
be
you
the
go.
game that buys me a next-gen console because I live out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, the Guitar Hero's. I mean, it's fun to play on your own. It's definitely fun. I do it a lot. I just play by myself, but it's definitely a game that you can have more fun playing with people around. So if you don't have people accessible, if you don't have people at your disposal, it's part of the fun is gone from the game. I think it's still obviously a good fun game, but showing off your mad guitar skills is what does it for me.
I think I may skip this one because the last time there was a new Guitar Hero for me to play, I didn't actually play guitar.
True.
So
I played a lot of the
there's
drums.
not really much.
And that's the thing. They haven't shown whether there's going to be more instruments for. I think it would be detrimental to not have more instruments. But the thing is, because of the live audience, you'd now have to have a first-person perspective of every one of the band members, and that's a lot more footage even. I feel like they had to. The reason they're going live is they had to fill that quota of your game having to install 60 gigabytes to the hard drives on the new generation now. So they just needed all of this footage to be able to fill that quota.
Is that actually like a real thing? Like they actually have a
No,
quota
it's
now?
just fucking with you.
No, it's not quota. I'm just poking fun at the fact that games are huge now on their installs.
Yeah.
I'm out of space on one of my PlayStations, so it's a good thing I have two. My PS4s. But because one of the spaces, like the hard drives, completely filled up after just a few games. Because like the Call of Duty was, I think, 70 gigs or something. GTA was 60. Like just a couple of games and your hard drives are filled up right away. So that's kind of. So I was just poking fun at that. The large installs now. Yeah, Guitar Hero. I don't know if they're going to do another one after this. Like I actually was caught off guard that they brought it back, because music, like the rhythm games, died out quite a few years ago.
Yeah.
Those were dropping quite a bit, but I don't know. Maybe it's just going to be the shock value for people. Oh, look, another Guitar Hero game, and then they'll get their sales out of it. But I don't know if it'll go much further in creating a new series out of it. But we'll see. I'm excited. I want some more Guitar Hero. Always love the game. It's good fun. All right. So this is actually super exciting. I don't know if you guys ever played this back in the day, but Chips Challenge. Have you guys ever played Chips Challenge?
I did not.
I feel like you're
beat Chips
young for that
Challenge.
I don't know if I ever beat it, but I put a lot of time into this game. Chips Challenge was a game where you basically had to get keys to open doors to get to the goal at the end, the portal, I think it was at the end or something. You had to solve puzzles. It was a 2D game, and the puzzles were great. I love the puzzles. There's different different terrains and stuff. So ice, you'd slide along, you can control yourself, that kind of stuff. Anyways, the guy that made that. I think he said within 10 weeks he made that game, and so after the first one was released, he started to make Chips Challenge 2, and it was the second installment. It took him 2 years to make it, but unfortunately, at the end of that, once he finished development, Chuck, the guy that made it, found that the trademark had been sold, and the new owners wanted him to fund the publishing for it. So he spent 2 years on it, couldn't afford it, and then, with much dismay, couldn't release it. So finally, this 2 decades later, so this was 20 years ago, when the game was made. 20 years later, he's finally made an agreement with the rights. And the game is releasing on Steam, and the first one and the second one are both releasing on Steam. on both of them will be available on May 29th. Chips Challenge 1 will be $1.99. Chips Challenge 2 is $4.99. So it's 20 years later, and this game finally came out.
I just added both of them to my wish list.
Yeah, honestly, I haven't bought a Steam game in a while, and I'm gonna be picking those up for sure, because it's if you guys want to read the article again, I'll post this to the showcase. But I love that game, and I totally forgot that it existed until this came out. We got 20 years. Can you imagine developing a game and not being able to release it for 20 years?
Yes.
That'd be a nightmare. It's just always be in the back of your head.
Did you know that there are more than 144 puzzles for that game?
For the first one?
Yes, there are actually more. 145 is not a level, but there is level 146 and a few after that.
Oh, I didn't know that. See, I don't know if I ever beat the game.
I don't want to ruin it for the people, but like there's a level that if you're paying attention will help you figure out how to get to the levels after 145.
Okay. So
there's like 6 more levels or something like that.
All right, there's your tip to all you chip challengers. If you when the game comes out, keep an eye out for that so you can get your bonus.
Well, I don't know if they'll put it in the actual Steam release or
not. Also with Chip Challenge 2, there's going to be an editor as DLC you can buy for $2.99, so you can make your own levels.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so that'll be sweet. Being able to share those with the Steam community and that, and make your own sweet challenging levels.
And it looks like you can get all 3 of them as a combined bundle for the price of Chips Challenge 2. So, I mean, if you're buying 2 anyway, you might as well just buy all of them.
So if you get all 3 things, Chips 1, Chips 2, and the editor, you get 50% off. Yeah, so $4.99 for the total package.
I might actually do that, even though I've never played it. I've seen it before, but I've never played it. Might be worth it.
I know. My thing. Here's a weird thing for me.
The nostalgia, though.
I was watching the trailers, and it looks different than the one I played as a kid.
Yeah, it's reskinned.
Okay. Even Chips Challenge 1 is different.
They are the same levels, as far as I can see from the previews, but yeah.
Oh, you know what? It says that the game was released on the Lynx, Atari Lynx, and Windows 3.1. So I'm wondering if the Lynx and the Windows versions were different.
I would assume they were. The Lynx was a piece of shit.
So I'm thinking maybe that's what it was. I played the Windows version, so maybe he's releasing the Lynx one. And that's why it looks different to me. But yeah, Chips Challenge. Super excited. All right. I have, I think, 2 more pieces before we get into our list. Oh, someone's in trouble.
Dude, ambulance.
Ambulance.
There's a party somewhere.
Ambulance.
Oh yeah, so Deus Ex. I've never played the games myself. I've always been really interested in the stories. I just never in the gameplay. But apparently, Deus Ex: Mankind Divided, the new one coming out, can be 100% stealth, including the boss fights, which you couldn't do before. You always had to carry some big guns with you to get past it, from what I've read. So I think that's interesting that they're giving you that option now to finally beat even the bosses stealthily. Because it always seemed weird to me when I try to play a game stealthily, and then all of a sudden I just have to not be stealthy. It's just way out of character, and it kind of breaks you out of the immersiveness. And it just breaks, you know?
Yeah, it's kind of disappointing that Super Mario Bros. Can be beat stealthily, but the older Deus Ex games couldn't.
Yeah, no, it's strange.
Does anyone remember original Super Mario Bros. Where you can just jump over Bowser instead of trying to fight him, and then just axe the bridge?
Yep.
I would imagine that fighting boss fights in Deus Ex Mankind Divided is going to be something like that.
Well, I can imagine a level being designed where,
just,
you know, instead of
like close the door and be like,
yeah. Maybe like you sneak past him and you fill the room up with gas or something, and it knocks him out or something. and kills him, right? So, and he never knows that he's just sitting in this room patiently waiting for you this whole time, and now all of a sudden he's passed out. What the hell, man? He's going to be disappointed. These bosses.
Just like go to the other side of the room, just open the airlock, and just like slip out, just like ejected into the vacuum of space. It's like, I have no idea how this happened.
Oh, I can imagine the boss's confusions when players are playing stealthily. Yeah, so there's that, and then the last piece of news I have is we have an in-engine reveal trailer for Star Wars Battlefront. It just came out, so if you haven't seen it, go check it out. It looks really good. It'd be great if the game looked like that, but the game was had the classic 1-2 punch, the combo of stating it was in-engine footage and also announcing DLC or pre-order bonuses right off the bat. So it's a good combo. I love seeing that in trailers. It's my favorite. But I think I've never played Battlefront, so I have no experience with this game. But there's a lot of hype behind this game, and Battlefront and the new one coming out. So I know a lot of people are reserving their hype because they don't want to be let down, just because of who's developing it. But I think Mr. President had some words to say on this, speaking on behalf of our country here.
I have words. I have many words. So, to define in-engine, first of all, because you're going to see this in a lot of trailers, and it's going to happen more and more often, but the way it's been for a while is in-engine truly just means that using whatever engine they're using, they have a scripted scene, a bunch of objects on screen doing a bunch of things, a bunch of particle effects, whatever, that are all happening, and they all may be rendered live even possibly, probably pre-rendered, but they aren't playable, they aren't controllable, they aren't actually interacting or anything like that. I can't say that that's what that trailer was, but it's pretty much 99% that's what that was.
Well, you look at it, it's
not gameplay footage, and it's not what gameplay footage will look like. Certainly not on consoles.
No, yeah,
sure.
that it was. As soon as you see, I'm like, no, that is way too good to be anything that's a real thing.
Okay, so I'm going to preface what I'm about to say with the fact that Battlefront and Battlefront 2 are pretty old. Like, Pandemic made them many years ago. Decade ago? I'm not even sure if it was that long ago. But, so they did that, and then no Battlefront 3, and then a couple of different developers, studios I should say, had their own stab at Battlefront 3, but had misfortunes like LucasArts backing out and stuff. One of the features that kept coming up in the different Battlefront 3s that were in development were space-to-ground transitions. So you had battles that took place on a planet and off a planet at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And you dynamically went space-to-ground. It wasn't a transition scene. You went from one to the other, possibly fighting all the way in your X-Wing or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So, cool stuff. But, so yeah. So that's to preface why I'm going to explain my disappointment with what's been clarified by DICE so far, both in statements they've made on their community sites and on Reddit and to press people and on video and so on. So here's my list of problems. I typed it up before this began.
All right.
You cannot drive AT-ATs. They are on rails only. In the previous games, you could effectively drive and control any of the vehicles. Any of them that were automatic, like AT-ATs, would return to their original path after you left them, which made sense because those were mobile spawn points.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of silly, but it's probably because they don't have the time. The time, resources, no, not really. It's more that they probably don't have the time or resources to properly program in the physics and the interactions of those things, or to balance, yeah, like you said, balance the game about them. Another thing is there is no bots when you play with other humans. You haven't played the other games, but the idea was you have a bunch of human players, but you also have a shit ton of bots because it's a war between the two factions at play.
Mm-hmm.
You have your stormtroopers and your rebels, and you have a shit ton of bots at the same time, shooting like a stormtrooper does, basically missing everything. But you have this real battle going on despite all the human players you also have. And they're all flying vehicles too and manning turrets and all that stuff. So no bots when you play with other humans in this new one. 40-player online limit, which sounds like a lot, but
in an open world.
But like with a giant thing like Hoth, it means either that they're not thinking about how it's going to play out, or they're going to severely reduce the scale compared to what the other games had.
Because what I'm envisioning is kind of a PlanetSide 2 kind of feel, like where you've got these massive battles going on of all players. And there's lots of players because there's a lot of people in each server.
Yeah, it was somewhat comparable. There's another problem. In the other games, you didn't have like custom loadouts or anything like that. You had classes. You had the Stormtrooper, the Dark Trooper, the Scout Trooper. You had the Droidicas and the Imperial Manslaughter Droid, whatever it was called, and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So you had these classes that had specific weapons and specific extra specialties, like the Droidica had the shield they popped up in Episode 1 and stuff. Cool things like that. Or the rolling ability and stuff like that. You don't have classes now. You only have loadouts Battlefield style, and everyone starts with the same blaster, which is probably the reason that they also don't have any droids or prequel characters in this, because that would break that entire idea. So that's another problem, is now the prequel stuff is in this. And despite the prequels relatively being bad movies, they had some really cool things.
Yeah.
So that indicates to me that they're probably going to be selling you progression stuff and battle pack weapons, which is another thing I don't like.
Well, you look at who's controlling.
Yeah,
right?
I'm not going to comment on that, but so that's half the list going on. There was a campaign mode called Galactic Conquest in the other ones, where you would fight battles on maps that had features that varied and go for control of the galaxy. So you bring the Empire to control. It's a face over several campaign battles, and it's not really complex, so it's weird that they aren't going to implement anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
No battles in space at all, no space at all. It might be an expansion. Yeah.
What's the game called?
Star Wars, yeah. So no battles in space. No confirmation on this, but very likely that there will probably be no custom user servers or mods on PC, just because they try to discourage that for the Battlefield games as well.
Yeah.
There is confirmed no split screen on PC, which
I guess that makes
kind of
sense.
sucks. Well, you're not making like 3 entirely different SKUs like back in the Xbox days, right? Or Xbox OG days. Your SKUs are very similar. It's weird to like say it's never going to happen, right?
Yes, I guess. But like, why would you ever need split screen on PC, really, though?
Playing with other people.
I'd say the majority of people I know that play games on their PC are playing by themselves.
Sure. But there's no reason to remove the feature.
I guess.
Like, the real reason would be some sort of QA concern or something like that. But it's like it's coddling your user base instead of just giving an option that might not work. Removing options should never be the first goal in game development.
It's just going to be included in DLC pack number 1.
Yeah, I don't even know about that, but maybe. Another thing is something along the lines of like Jedis and vehicles are some sort of pickups rather than things you find and get into, or things you get from being really good, which they were in the other games, which is weird, but I'll need more details on that. That hasn't been clarified yet. So overall, sorry for the long tirade, but overall it seems like a complete regression from the other games, so it's disappointing that like it can't live up to what games were doing a decade ago on modern hardware.
Is it now? My question though is it? Do you think a lot of this content could be dropped out just because they don't like, if they want it out anytime soon, they don't have enough time to be able to add a lot of this stuff, because they're adding more when it comes to graphical fidelity and stuff like that. People are going to complain about if it's not there. If you have a game with really crappy graphics but more content, you're probably still going to get a lot of people complaining.
So I'm gonna preface my next statement by saying that a lot of the people that post on public sites are like community managers that have no bloody clue what they're saying. But one of the guys from DICE was posting on Reddit, and like basically saying, no, that's a design decision. No, we're doing that because that's the way we want it for a lot of things. So that could just be bullshit PR speak, but it seems like a lot of it is that would be hard, not time frame wise, but that would be hard conceptually the way we're used to making games, right? They're not, the way DICE does things isn't user customizable. It's sanitized and controlled.
I guess so. They have a system.
When they were banning people for removing the blue filter from Battlefield 3, for instance, because making the game look better gives you an advantage, in their own words.
Okay, so it's just how the company just philosophically, looks at their games, and that's why it's.
Yeah. No, like realistically, they're probably under a severe crunch to get it out before the movie.
Yeah, true, I guess.
But I have to worry about how much they're going to just sell to you for $30 in the season pass after.
Yeah. Do you remember the good old days when, well, they never actually followed through on it, but DICE said that they will never make you pay for additional content?
We will never make you pay for maps in Battlefield Bad Company 2. 3 months later, map pack paid, required.
Yep.
That was funny.
Yeah, that was a complete 180 if I'd ever seen one. It was almost worse than any of Microsoft's 180s in the past few years when I saw that. But yeah, it just shows you. I don't know if it was higher up saying no, you don't get to decide that, or if they completely just changed their minds. But yeah, it's just kind of funny how they said that, and now their games revolve around a lot of making you pay extras.
The money is there, though. The money is there in the season pass stuff. They wouldn't do it if it didn't make them shit tons of cash.
Well, yeah, that's the thing is people are paying, and I think again, never playing a Battlefront, I have no experience of what it used to be like. I'm gonna stick on. I've got a boycott personally from EA titles just because I'm personally not a fan of some of the stuff, stuff that they do. So.
That's understandable.
And I think I'm going to stick to that boycott. There's plenty of other games out there. As I said, I mentioned one. I don't really care too much about Star. I like Star Wars. I think it's great lore and stuff, but I'm not like a fan or anything of it. Like I'm not crazy into it. So if I'm going to play an open world game like that, I'm going to, as I mentioned, go play PlanetSide 2, or any of these new open world multiplanetary games coming out in the next few years.
By the way, Braden, you are right. That is so stupid.
It's incredibly stupid. It really, it's like what I'm wondering is whether the
can you please fill us in? We have no idea what's going on.
He said that's so stupid on the chat during my talking.
Yeah.
Oh, about your rant. Okay.
I commented real time on the rant because I couldn't speak over him, but
okay.
But yeah, I wonder if stuff like, not that reviewers matter, but like if a reviewer might say a lack of customizable loadouts is like disappointing or something.
Oh,
in talk of the loadouts versus classes.
Oh yeah, like
if you're mentioning is sort of like things that that reviewers are now coming to expect of games. And not that I like that. I'm a huge fan of the first Battlefront and Battlefront 2, and like hearing all these changes is like killing me. But I'm wondering whether there's things in the modern gaming climate, whether reviewers would be complaining about a lot of those features.
Oh yeah, so like reviewers are scum of the earth, and well, a lot of them, these game sites, and it would be horrifying, but not unexpected if. DICE is doing things to place expectations about reviewers. Like there's this weird feedback loop where like reviewers justify horrendously anti-consumer decisions, both for clicks and for more for fealty to the developers. But then you get this weird feedback loop where the developers do something or publishers towards fealty towards these review sites. So yes, it would be horrifying if that's the way it is, but I'm not saying it isn't. You could be totally right.
Yeah, it's when it comes to reviews too. That's a tough topic. It's stuff. You know, reviews are great in a sense that it gives you an overview of something that you were kind of skeptical before. But in the same sense, it could completely deter someone from a game that they may have otherwise loved just because one reviewer said something bad about it, right?
I've stopped watching reviews of games before I play them. I've just completely stopped that because it's turned me away from so many games that I actually ended up liking when I played them.
It's tough though, because what if you're on a tight budget, like, and it's you're only able to buy one game every few months, and you know there's 5 games you potentially want to play.
The solution is there. You know what the solution is? Gameplay videos, not reviews.
That's the other thing. But what if these gameplay videos end up ruining story for you, and you don't even want to play it anymore, right?
So if you're in games for the story and stuff, then yeah, maybe you need something more like a critical review. Because like that's how it is with movies, right? Like you can't just watch a sample of a movie. If you're interested in the plot specifically, you can't watch anything but a very targeted sample without getting it spoiled.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I can see that. I can concede that.
I basically have a few review sources that I really trust, and they're mostly like independent reviewers who like are not like reviewing at the bribes of game developers and whatnot.
Yeah. Here's the thing. One of our old podcast members, Manny, he actually had a really good point. Is what you need to do is you need to find reviewers that enjoy a lot of the same things as you. You need to start looking for their names on the reviews. Don't go to review because it's by IGN or Gematsu or whatever. Go to review because the person that you respect their opinions of wrote the article. And then you can get a better sense. What if someone gives a bad review on a game just because, like an RPG, just because they don't really like RPGs?
Oh, Matt, right? Okay, I got to interrupt you. Example. So I think it was Tommy Tellerico. I think I'm not sure who did a review of Capcom versus SNK 2, and at the time it was like, oh, I don't like fighting games, so I'm giving this a 3 because I don't like fighting games or something like that.
Yeah, that's silly.
Somebody did. I remember. I read it. I
don't know if I'd see Tellerico doing that, but
this was like what, 2001? Like it was a while ago. Like so, it's like 3D games are coming out, so it's like 2D games aren't getting a good review. There's a counterpoint to the idea of going with someone who has the same opinions as you, is that you don't get exposed to new ideas and new mindsets and things you might disagree with initially.
I guess maybe the good mixtures would be to take reviews from multiple sources. You know, look at someone that maybe you don't like. They write reviews usually contrast to what you believe, and then someone you do, and you get both sides of the story. But that's the tough thing, though, is again, reviews are both good and bad. Reviews can deter someone from playing a game they may have enjoyed, or they may be just shills, and not giving a true sense of the game and just making you waste your money. I think they're necessary, but the way we go about intaking them should be looked at.
Yeah, as soon as IGN did a review of Infamous 1 and Infamous 2, granted it was different people. I feel like they should in this research because in the first Mortal Kombat, for Cole's voice being too gravelly, would negate a game in the first place. But then in the review of the second game, they say they missed Cole's old voice. So I mean, different reviewers, but you're in the same publication giving completely conflicting points on a very stupid point to negate points on.
Mm-hmm. Well, again, that's why I said you got to look at the names given the reviews. It's not the company hosting the review in the article.
Yeah.
It's the people writing it, right? Because there are,
that's silly.
For the most part, opinion pieces. Their opinion is what a review is, right? So that's why I think you need to find someone and that's what Manny always said, is find someone that you know. And then Adam had a good point. Maybe go look at some other articles and get some bad points, but trust in people that you know are going to lead you in the right direction based off what you like. ultimately, I think reviews are necessary. Just they're tricky.
Well, I love watching reviews. For some reason, that's always. I've never watched reviews to know how to know watch reviews just for the enjoyment of it. And I've always considered getting into reviews and stuff, but not in sense of like games that are like brand new coming out. Should you buy this game kind of thing? More like a just like looking at old games and reviewing them kind of thing. I don't know. I've always liked that.
One guy I always liked watching his reviews. They're always good. Adam Sessler. He was one of my favorite.
Yeah, but the thing about him is his stuff, at least back in the past, was written by someone else.
Oh yeah, back like on X.
Yeah.
Stuff, yeah. Obviously he's done with a lot of it now, but in the past few years, the stuff he was doing on YouTube, right? When he had his own stuff going on, I'm fairly certain that was him doing those, because you could tell the difference.
Oh yeah. He was pretty whiny, but I can understand people agreeing with him.
Yeah, no, he was one of the ones I'd watch for sure, but. Yeah, so there's our Battlefield. I guess we'll have to wait, or Battlefront. We'll have to wait and see some more on it, I guess, before any of these concerns can be solidified or disproved. So unless you guys have any more news, I think it's time we're going to get on to our news, or sorry, our topic. It's going to be our top 3 most disappointing games. Again, so viewers, I'd love to see what games you thought were disappointing to you. So maybe games in a series you loved, but all of a sudden this one really sucked and it let you down, or something you're super hyped about a game and then it wasn't there. So I'm going to start off with Charles and get Charles's number 3 on his list of most disappointing games to him.
Okay. So when I was a kid, I played the Final Fantasy game on Super Nintendo. Back then it was in North America Final Fantasy 3, but now I know that it's Final Fantasy 6. And then got Final Fantasy 7 for the PS1 and enjoyed that as well. And then Final Fantasy 8 happened.
Whatever.
Okay. Adam. Half
Whatever.
of Squall's lines are ellipses. That's not writing.
Whatever. I mean, it technically is. You gotta press the key 3 times.
No, you don't even have to press the key 3 times. You just have to hold the key down long enough for 3 dots to appear.
Fair enough.
So it takes timing, you say?
Yeah, but it doesn't take thought.
Muscle memory.
Yep. That's it. You don't have to actually do anything. No, I just did not enjoy that game. It was awful. I found the story was pointless.
So that was Final Fantasy 6?
8.
8, okay. Again, I have no idea on Final
7 was good. 8 was not.
That's like the best one.
What, 7 or 6?
6.
Okay. I'm not gonna disagree with you.
Fair enough. Cool. So Final Fantasy 8, disappointing to you, just because writing and story dumbness and ellipses. Because ellipses.
The characters were just not likable. I did not like the characters at all.
Again, I can't say anything against. I don't know anything about these games. So I'm going to move over to Brandon then. What was your number 3 most disappointing game?
I'm a sucker for Sonic games. For some reason, a Sonic game has to be just outright complete for me to not enjoy it somehow.
Oh, let's see if we can hear it.
Sorry, we cutting out.
Yeah,
You are.
a lot.
You're cutting out a lot.
Yeah, you're cutting out almost every time you talk. We're just trying to piece things together.
I wonder if it's worth me staying in the podcast if this is happening.
Sure, I want to hear your things. So Sonic, it has to be a really crappy game for you not to like it because you love Sonic games.
Uh,
It just sounds like it's beatboxing.
uh, what kind
Okay, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hope his internet tubes catch up a little bit. I'm gonna go to over to AdBlock, Mr. President here, for his, and then we'll jump back to Braden after that.
Okay, so these are in no certain order here. I'm just kind of throwing things out. So I'll start with one. Perfect Dark Zero, because it was a poor follow-up to Perfect Dark,
Mhm.
and it lost a lot of features. It lost a lot of functionality. The story as a prequel did not live up to what it could have been. It didn't really play very well. It was an okay shooter, but it just didn't feel as good as it should have. Bad story, annoying gunplay, slow and annoying levels, campaign that was almost nonsensical, and ultimately meaningless in that entire canon. And at the end of it all, it basically killed that franchise.
That was
Even
Perfect Dark, you said, sorry?
Perfect Dark
Yeah.
Zero. Even though the Game Boy game was all right, and the N64 game was great, and their later HD re-release of Perfect Dark was better than that too. So
It had a lot to live up to, so even if it did a couple things wrong, it's going to be noticeable, right?
Sure, but it's more noticeable when the game has nobody playing like a month after release.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, that's a good point.
Everyone went back to Halo 2 is how bad that was.
Yeah, no, I can totally understand that pick. I actually even forgot about that game. That's how disappointing it was. Yeah, so Perfect Dark Zero for sure. So I think we're gonna jump over to me. Braden's gonna take care of his pesty Netflix watching friends, so we can get his internet back for them. So I'm gonna go to mine. I have 4 total, but 2 are more on the same kind of track. One I didn't experience myself. I just know a lot of people that were disappointed with it. But I'm gonna go. I'm gonna have to say Duke Nukem Forever for sure. Was
Did
probably
anyone expect that to be a good game?
I had my fingers kind of crossed a bit. I mean, I was more of a silent or Serious Sam, sorry, kind of guy. But I was just really hoping, that something good would have come out of it. It wasn't in the right time zone, and they should have just not done it. Is what happened. I don't know. It's hard to really, because I think we all know the disappointment we felt from it, unless you guys expected the disappointment. But yeah, it was just mediocre gameplay. The jokes were just out of place. They just weren't relevant anymore, and that's half of what made the games good, right? Was that it was relevant to people's interest at the time, and that the humor, it's out of its time, and I don't know what I was expecting, but I guess something maybe a little more in tune with things. But it's like they had everything written, and then they just didn't change it over the years, and just finished building the levels. So I have to say I cheated, and yeah, I used Duke Nukem as my number 3. Did anyone else enjoy that game?
I didn't play it because I heard
didn't
how
play
much of a disaster it was.
Yeah. My friend actually, he got all the collector's edition and everything of that thing, like like the biggest package you could get. Man, was he the most regretful person I've ever seen in my life. All right, so it looks like Braden's dropped out. We'll see. Hopefully, we can get his answers from. Oh, he's reset his rudder, so he'll come back in a few. So we'll go to our number 2s quick, and then he'll fire off his 3 and 2 once he comes back. So Charles, do you want to give us your number 2 then? Most disappointing game.
Part of my problem with having disappointing games is I don't walk into something with expectations, because that's how you find disappointing games. Dig deep. Oh boy. What was the last time I was disappointed with a game? Was there a game that just kind of stopped? I don't like
You're
when.
just a very optimistic person.
No, I'm not a very optimistic person. I'm a very pessimistic person when it comes to media nowadays. People just can't write new and original things. I don't know. So I'll just go with something that makes me disappointed in a game, and maybe you guys won't notice that I didn't give a proper answer. But I don't like when a game just kind of stops, like it gives up at the end. Where okay, and that's the end of the game. Congratulations. There's a build up to something that just isn't there, or the story clearly seems like it's been cut out at the end. I know, Mass Effect 3. There you go. There's a game that's disappointing.
I've heard a lot of people not happy with that. Yeah.
Pick your color of explosion, basically. That's the end of the game.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
what most people describe it as. So, I'm
And if you did
disappointed.
everything perfectly and really, really good, you got to unlock a secret explosion.
This directed by Michael Bay. Fair enough. Mass Effect, I guess, or any games that don't have payoff.
Yeah, that game had no payoff.
Fair enough. That's something to be disappointed about. Mr. Adam, what is your number 2 most disappointing game?
Well, my number 2 was going to be Mass Effect 3.
You jerk. Okay.
So I'll just stick on that point though, and just clarify a bit where for number 2 they went with a more action-oriented thing with like sort of light tributes to RPG mechanics, but it was still interesting, and they were still going in a general good direction. But you look at the credits and you notice that in the second game, the main writer was only a partial writer, and on the third game, the first main writer was gone.
Yep.
So
I never seen that.
they very clearly did not know how to resolve the issues they had in the story, like with a near godlike enemy. So they came up with the worst possible ending, which was a bloody Star Child bullshit, which had a choose your own color, choose your own adventure ending point, like Charles explained. And the issue was the entire time the folks at BioWare billing it as a your choices from these games will have impacts in the last game. And only a couple of them had any impact at all. Like, even dialogue didn't change much based off what you've done in the first game. They cheated out because they couldn't really do anything. They couldn't really live up to anything they promised. They had no idea what they were doing, it seems. So, yeah, just in terms of what it should have been, that one would have to take that spot. But I wasn't that personally invested at that point.
Yeah. So is it more of a gameplay sense, like with a mechanic, like with that choose your own thing, that was disappointing, or was it the story because they?
So
they got
that
rid of
is the
right
thing.
later?
The story was supposed to be based off of your choices, your RPG choices from the other games. But at the end of the game, it effectively boiled down to an end of game choice.
Yeah.
It basically full sail copied Deus Ex, like full sail. The first one, that is. So
yeah, and it's tough because it's games like these and anything Peter Molyneux makes that whenever I hear a game say your choices will affect the gameplay, I instantly turn on skeptic mode, because I don't think there's been really many, if any, good examples of that being an actual case scenario.
No, there hasn't.
So up
Right.
until that point, outside of Dragon Age 2, there hadn't been much reason to doubt BioWare. They always promised lofty things and delivered very well, or very close to, very good effort. But this was so clearly we're telling you something that we're not going to even try to do. Like, Peter Molyneux the only problem is he sort of should have more self-control, but he really does want to do the things he says. He just can't deliver.
Can't do them, yeah.
And he starts dreaming too much, and he promises these dreams, and he doesn't ask his engineers, like, can we actually do that? Because he just feels like they should be able to do it when they can't. He has no self-control. With these guys, it felt like, wow, they're just flat out lied. They never had any intention of doing it.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
But I don't know that. It just felt like that. So that's why it's more of a disappointment.
Okay, that makes sense. And again, I would have been shocked that if that game didn't come up in a list of disappointing games, even though I'd never played it. That's for sure. All right, we're gonna jump over. Brandon seems to have made it back. Let's hope that his inner tubes have fixed themselves. Brandon, if you want to fire off your number 3 and your number 2 then for us.
Sure. So hopefully this works out. I reset the router and all that. So my number 3, I actually changed the order because I'm gonna actually try and order them this time. My number 3 is Devil May Cry 2.
Okay.
First Cry game. Devil May Cry 4.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna go play some of the other ones. Play Devil May Cry 3. That's my favorite in the series. And then I actually managed to get my hands on the HD collection when that came out. So I went Devil May Cry 1, 2, and 3 all on one disc. And I'm like, cool, I've already played Devil May Cry 3. Let's try Devil May Cry 1. Liked it. I played Devil May Cry 2, and I'm just like, this is the most boring game I've ever played in my life. It's just, everything about it is completely, like, 100% worse than the game before it. To even turn on that game.
That's tough because you said DMC1 was good. A lot of times I know people that'll go back to older games and they'll be disappointed because it's like, oh, there's less mechanics in it. It's because they've added more stuff into it, right?
Well, yeah.
Actually, an opposite example of that, if Eric was here, he'd justify this. Eric, his first experience with Dead Space was actually Dead Space 3. So when he went back and played Dead Space 2, he was blown away because it was so much better. So there are cases where the older games are better too.
Yeah.
I just find it a lot of times it's the other way, right?
Resident Evil.
Sorry?
Resident Evil.
I guess, yeah. Maybe it's just me that looks at it that way, but a lot of times older games, I'm like, oh, there's less things in this. It's good.
Yeah. I considered putting the new Devil May Cry game on there because that game's just everything about it.
Yeah, but nobody expected anything good from that.
I didn't expect anything good from that, so I wasn't disappointed. I hate it, but I never expected it.
Yeah, so you're
so
not
I wasn't disappointed.
Fair enough.
So was Devil May Cry 4, 3, 1, 2. I played 2 last, and I'm like, okay, I have one more Devil May Cry game to play through. I'm excited. I love this series. I want to play through another game. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. This is so boring. I'm just going to go play Devil May Cry 3 again. Because it's just, the reasons, the first Devil May Cry game, I definitely appreciate it. It's not my favorite, because I didn't play it first. But I appreciate what it's trying to do, and I like its design for the most part, like the level design, how corridored space, and you have your
Gothic,
and it's more I like and all that. I know how the game goes per se, and it just seems like everything seems interesting because the levels themselves are much smaller.
Mm-hmm.
And then with Devil May Cry, to ruin everything about it was make the levels giant. They're just giant levels. You're just walking around in huge courtyards and running down huge, wide roadways where there's not really a lot of stuff happening. So let's say you have an amount of stuff happening. Devil May Cry put this amount of stuff in a small space, making it seem like a lot. They put the same amount of stuff happening in large spaces in Devil May Cry 2, and it just made it that much more boring. And
Now, was I'm not familiar again with the game. I've never played them. Was Devil DMC 1 and DMC 2 on different systems?
no, both
Nope.
PS2, and Devil May Cry 3 is also on
I was just
PS2.
wondering if maybe they had more hardware to work with, so they just made bigger levels.
I think they were just trying to make it seem like they were improving on it, when really they only sort of degressed.
Plus, I think Itsuno came into it with 2, and he had his own ideas. And after that was done, with 3, they were like, okay, here's what we did wrong. Here's what was right with the first game, and then they did it well.
Yeah, I think the reason it also is that way is because Devil May Cry 1 started as a Resident Evil game,
Oh, yeah,
and it was just a little bit too like not Resident Evil-y, and when they started to go with what they want, it sort of has an evil style of tight corridors.
Well, like Hideki Kamiya found out that like he noticed a bug where when you hit enemies on the ground, they would bounce and you could keep hitting them.
Oh yeah.
And he's like, oh yeah, we could make a whole game out of this. So they cut that build.
Yeah, it's true.
They cut that build and they made the game.
Yeah, I didn't mean to go that long on that, but that's basically yes, Devil May Cry 2.
Cool. So what's your number 2 then? So
number 2, this is what I was trying to say when I was cutting out, and it seems like I'm doing a little better. I'm kind of a sucker for Sonic games. Basically, a Sonic completely outright the worst thing you've ever seen for me to not enjoy it somehow. And I think it's just because I loved the Sonic Adventure games on the GameCube and the Genesis games on like the collection when I was like 7, and that just sort of like right.
Of course.
So like you know,
cut out there.
I'm such a child. Anyways, new Sonic game comes out, Sonic Unleashed. I'm like, okay, why is he a werewolf? I don't care. Play through the first level. I'm like, yeah, it's fast, it's cool, it's fun. I really like this new gameplay style. Next level, it's a really, really slow, not good werewolf beat 'em up. And I'm just like, why am I want to play daytime levels. Why am I playing this? So like it's separated by daytime and nighttime levels. The daytime levels are kind of on rails-ish. Really, really fast pace, and it's. People would argue it's autopilot. I think it's less autopilot than some of the other ones have been now, since they've come up with that gameplay style. I think in Unleashed they were pretty. And those levels, they're.
Those levels there, what? Sorry, you cut out?
Oh no. Am I okay?
Yeah.
Those levels are only 2.5 to 5 minutes tops. And they're infrequent. And then you go to the nighttime levels where usually you'll have 1 or 2 next to each other, sometimes even 3, and they're like 15 to 30 minutes sometimes. Like it's absolutely brutal. And I don't know why I think they just wanted to sell this werewolf idea for some fucking stupid reason, and they made those levels way too long, and they're all dumb and stupid.
So there's 2 things here, I think, that apply. The first is that those running levels were apparently super expensive. Like
I bet
really
they were.
expensive.
I bet they were.
And the other thing, this is more of a theory of mine, maybe other people have it, but back on the Genesis there was a game called Rise Star.
Oh, I love that game.
Yeah, you were a star with really long arms and legs, and you stretch those arms and legs to like do things and like to swing on things and stuff.
Yeah.
And it sort of felt like the Unleashed werewolf levels were like a canceled Rise Star beat 'em up or something.
Maybe.
Just the way your limbs moved, it kind of felt like Rise Star to me.
It's kind of rear good though. It wasn't. It didn't. I don't know.
Just my theory.
I could definitely see that, but I liked the first Rise Star game. The thing with a lot of these, you know, people talk about like how Sonic would be good if it wasn't about Sonic's friends. I think that's just sort of a commentary on how like Sonic games are always trying to include stupid other. And sorry, am I okay? Did I cut out?
Yeah.
Okay. And I think Sonic Unleashed is just the epitome of why did you include this in the game and why is it the focus, and that's why it's, even though it's not the worst Sonic game, it's why it's the most disappointing to me.
Fair enough.
Of course, the worst Sonic game is Sonic CD.
I, once again, only played Sonic when I was younger, so I have no experience with any of the newer Sonics and why they're not good and stuff.
Good, so you don't have to experience bad games.
Never. Don't do what I do and play all the Sonic games.
Fair enough. I won't. I'll stay away from them. I'll just go back to the good old ones.
And maybe Sonic Adventure if you can.
Yeah. Okay, so that's your 3 and 2.
Yeah.
I think I have left my 2 left, and then we're going to get to our number 1 most disappointing games. So my number 2 was actually is probably going to be I'd say Dead Island. Dead Island. I love Dying Light. I think Dying Light is what Dead Island should have been, which is why I think Dead Island is a little disappointing. You know, it had that amazing trailer that got everyone all worked up, and it was great to begin with, but then all of a sudden, the game changes. It's not open world anymore. You're in a corridor. You're like, you're just like, it's tight hallways. You're just like, this isn't open world anymore. This isn't what I want out of this game, and that's the entire second half of the game. So it was pretty fun to start with. The gameplay was fun, but then it just fell right on its butt. And then again, the developers technically redeemed themselves by making Dying Light. But yeah, Dead Island could have been what Dying Light was. It didn't hit that point. So that's why Dead Island was a little disappointing for me. I don't know if anybody else has played it at all. But yeah, Dead Island. All right, we're going to get to our number 1s then. Charles, start us off with your number 1 most disappointing game to you. What game did you just go...
I'm gonna have to go ahead and blame Adam for counter stealing something from me, and I was just gonna go ahead and say Peter Molyneux.
As a human being. As a human being.
Yeah, just as a human. No, he is his own hype train, and he just doesn't know where the station is.
Yeah, that's a good way of saying it.
He was extremely ambitious with his Fable series in particular, where your choices can shape the way that your character is perceived by everyone, and your choices don't really matter after the first and only alignment-based quest. At which point, every single other quest is, if you complete it, you're awarded with good alignment. Yay! You're a good hero. Now that was only Fable 1. Fable 2 and 3 still, I don't know if they suffer from the same total lack of choice, but what about gray area? What about, like, morality is not good and evil, just. And he thinks that he's going to make this story based on the changing morality of a hero that just will never happen, ever, because you just can't do that. It's hard to write something like that. But he promised it, and we never had it.
Yeah, my friend played the Fable games and was always ranting about them, how they weren't up to it. And that was my first experience with knowing that Peter Molyneux doesn't like to deliver or runs his mouth. Yeah.
The last game where he actually delivered was probably like Populous.
What game was that? I don't know Populous.
That's how old it is. That's how long ago that was.
Fair enough. track record recently isn't too good. What's he doing now? Like, didn't he have some like Connect thing he was working on?
No, he fucking like had a meltdown with stuff, and he's out of it now.
Okay, I wasn't sure. Like, I thought for some reason that he wasn't doing anything anymore. I just remember the last project was that.
Oh yeah, he had that like Project Natal, like fucking Simon, whatever it was. I can't remember.
Where you talk to the kid and.
I wanted that to be a thing so badly.
It would have been cool.
Abusive parent simulator.
I think it would have been fun. You would have seen some good stuff come out of it, but if it had fully formed.
Hey Brody, any Q&A? Any Q&A?
Taking a look. No, we have some people watching, but they're watching silently. They just want to hear our beautiful voices.
America.
Blasphemy.
Okay, yeah. So Peter Molyneux, I think he just won, pretty much. We can end the show.
Drop the mic.
Yeah.
I need my man equip. I haven't thought about this yet.
Oh yeah. Okay, well now we'll finish off our number ones. Braden, if you want to finish off your number one, then what's the most disappointing game to you?
What about the President of Canada?
No, I'll go after.
Okay.
Okay, so I kind of feel bad for always talking about this game on this podcast, but I never have a chance to talk about it. So now I'm just getting all my points out. After a few weeks, I'll stop talking about Banjo-Kazooie. At some point, I will. I know I will.
I saw this coming.
But yeah, I'm sure you did. I'm sure you did. So just imagine your favorite video game series is first destroyed by the purchasing of the company, and then they just stop making good games. Like all the good people leave. Mm-hmm. But basically, there was a trailer for a new Banjo-Kazooie game that came out, and like I wasn't quite sure about the design of the characters, but at least silly, like it was still going to be, something I would enjoy. And the trailer actually ends with them opening like a door into like a bright, vibrant cartoon world with all like collectibles and all the stuff that you're expecting to see from the game, and they run forward and they run what is actually just a pitfall, and it's like new Banjo-Kazooie coming out later. And I think that's the only time that a trailer has ever accurately represented how I felt about a video game. In all time.
You can pinpoint the part your heart breaks.
Yeah. Because that's exactly. You're about to give me everything. You're showing me everything that I want. I run into a brick wall. Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts is the game I'm talking about.
Yeah. No, I remember seeing that. Yeah.
Knows. Yep. It's basically. It's they're saying it's a Banjo-Kazooie game. I say it's not. I say we're just going to call it Nuts and Bolts and leave the first part out of the name because it doesn't deserve to be there. I could probably talk for an hour about all the things I dislike about it and why I think it was just a stupid thing to do. They openly mocked the gameplay that they were trying, the gameplay that everybody did actually want, but instead they went full on market research and went like, everybody wants shooting games. Shooting games are what's the whole shooting game with the same characters, and it
was Lego Racers but with Banjo-Kazooie.
Kind of.
Yeah.
It wasn't racing. And it just. To be fair, it's a cool idea. The car building mechanics and physics are kind of cool.
It should have been a spin-off next to a real game, real sequel.
Even a spin-off would have been fine, really. Or like anything other than Banjo-Kazooie. Probably would have been a good game. I might have even liked it, but I just couldn't get past the stigma of like, this is not what I want.
It just felt like the names were tacked on.
Yeah, it felt like they had to make a new Banjo-Kazooie game to sell without making a new Banjo-Kazooie game, but rather making a game that they think people, what these characters are, will just buy just because.
Yeah, I remember.
Man, that sounds like a Star Wars game without space.
Actually, yeah, it's very relevant to that. I think they're trying to make Star Wars to have the name Star Wars, but not something that gamers who aren't into Star Wars would buy. And I think they should have just stuck with their guns and gone like it's because there was Microsoft. Microsoft is not with their guns. They're gonna.
I would not blame Microsoft. I would blame Rare Culture after all the people who mattered left.
That too. But
it's
that said, there were still a few people who mattered when that game was made, and they decided to do it. And I hate everything about it. I hate everything it stands for. I hate everything, all the decision making that went into it, and more than anything, I hate the trailer because I can't help but shed.
Man, so the part you're not mentioning is like throughout the game, there's this TV you can talk to.
Oh yes.
And it shits all over the old games.
It does.
And the idea
it actually does.
Them.
Yeah.
It insults you for wanting other games. It's like blatantly like fuck you for liking the other ones.
That's kind of brutal.
There's actually the opening sequence. I'm not going to go too far into details. I'm taking up too much time. But basically, the opening sequence is like a fat banjo who hasn't been doing anything for years, and he's just like playing Xbox.
I've seen it, yeah.
And Yep. And then they battle against a grunty witch head, and they like collect items, and they're like, nobody wants to collect things anymore. No one wants to play a game like this. And I'm like, I just thought that was the most ignorant.
It's like they were trying to be witty and self-realizing, but it just ended up being insulting.
It's like being self, but not realizing that you don't need to self-realize. If that makes sense. It probably doesn't.
Fair enough. Okay, so your number one is Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts. Most disappointing game.
Yep.
All right. The President of Canada is going to let us know what we should be sad about by telling us his most disappointing game.
Okay, so I have a bunch of honorary mentions that are games, but my number one isn't exactly a game.
Okay.
But we'll get to that in a second. So, tons of disappointments, some recent history, some not so much. Expectations not met, all that stuff. But just being generally blown away and bad decision making and poor foresight. Any single time that Capcom or Square Enix put out a mobile title of their main franchises, such as Final Fantasy All the Bravest or the Mega Man iOS port, are just like disappointing at like, this is the state of that franchise now.
Mm-hmm.
Seeing as that iOS game actually killed Mega Man, but Zach's not here, so I guess we're not going into that.
Yeah.
More specifically, things like Mega Man Legends 3 getting killed to spite Inafune and stuff like that. Freelancer 2, which was like apparently feature complete, and they had a video of it on the original Xbox even, and it looked amazing, so it was probably a bullshot, but still. Stuff like that, getting canceled, disappointment. Things like patchy slot games of real games like King of Fighters, because now we're never going to get a real King of Fighters. So that all out of the way. Number one disappointment from last year: Facebook buying Oculus.
I don't know.
Which begets all the stuff we aren't going to get. Which begets Pornhub saying, "There goes us making porn for the Oculus." After that happened. And it's like all that stuff and all the badness that came from that.
I don't.
Maybe Valve being a shining guardian in the night right now. I don't know. We'll see.
I don't know.
They said they were going to use it for advertisements. They said that.
No. They said it was. I'm pretty sure they said it wasn't out of the realm of possibility.
No. Zuckerberg specifically mentioned that as one of the potential end goals. On top of how they've on the speech of how they're gonna see it as how they're gonna get revenue off of it. But some of the people at Facebook were outright saying that they were gonna rebrand it as the Facebook device, and focus more on social platforms. The problem with that is that the entire thing with VR is that it was a purely antisocial idea. Like, not antisocial, but non-social, where it was like, the idea was you could get the spec and build your own one and be in your own little virtual world. And that's like, no, now the goal is social. The goal is purely social.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to gear it towards social and make design decisions towards social. And for the things I wanted to see that device being capable of, that was horrifyingly sad.
I mean,
Rip in pieces, Oculus.
I guess. I think there's something we don't need to be worried, though. As you mentioned yourself, there's a Montreal company that they've got a good looking.
No, I mentioned Valve.
Valve. No, that's what I'm saying. Valve also has one too. There's a few out there now, and I don't know, who knows what Google's going to pull out too. You know, they have their Google Cardboard, and they're also got their Glass project. We could see something, coming out of them as well too. Sony's
Oculus could have been the one. Oculus saw the ring, the little ring, the one ring to rule them all, the Facebook money ring, and they didn't give it up. They didn't throw it in the lava.
They were the chosen one.
They were the chosen one.
Do you think though we'll see the Oculus never seen anything to do with video games?
Well, like, it is still video game oriented, but it's like the end goal and where the product was going to be, they're going to be making sacrifices for ideology that are strictly not geared towards gaming. And that's why Valve sort of went silent after that for a while, I think, is they saw an existential threat there to where they wanted VR to go.
Ooh, Valve did.
That's what I'm thinking. Well, they sort of went radio silence on VR for a while after that announcement.
Yeah, well, I don't know. They probably wanted their own
Everyone
spotlight too.
radio silent after that announcement?
Well, like, right up to that announcement, they were saying, we are not going to ever make a physical thing. We're not going to be putting money into physical hardware directly. They wanted to just create software and ideas for it. And then radio silence after that announcement, and that's like direct partnership in creating the hardware with HTC.
And you think that was because they saw an opening now, because Oculus was...
Well, not an opening so much as a deficit, in that, like, the Oculus was then, it was not the same product by definition because Facebook's motivations aren't the same.
Yeah, so they just figured, if people are going to use the content that we want to create for VR, we need to have a device that can use that content.
Well, it's kind of like the Windows Store thing, where it's like Microsoft announcing the built-in store for Windows 8 and so on was an existential threat to them, wherein they had to create their own platform to be sure that they would be secure in the future. But in this way, it's like Facebook orienting the most popular VR thing towards Facebook things and not gaming could create problems that would block them from their gaming ambitions, or where they wanted to see the VR world go.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. So that's why they had to just step in and say, okay, we need to make the platform now that people can play our content on. I don't know, maybe it's a good thing, because maybe a lot of companies will start saying, hey, look, Oculus is out of the picture, really, and it's more room for competition, right?
I'm just saying, at the time, that was like
of course, super
kick in the balls, like, rip in pieces our forgotten son.
Yeah, I was confused when it happened. I didn't know what to think. Because generally, I mean, obviously, besides ideologies, you look at WhatsApp got bought by Facebook, right? And that's hasn't changed at all, right?
Yeah, but WhatsApp was already social.
Yeah, I guess, but
They didn't have to do anything to it to make it more Facebook.
I'm pretty sure I have a couple other examples. I can't recall them, but for the most part, when Facebook buys something, they seem to leave it relatively untouched.
Well, another big one is like data mining and data harvesting is their number one thing.
Oh yeah.
And the product will be that way eventually, where you can't stop that stuff.
I guess, yeah.
So it's like fundamentally you can't get away from that.
Fair enough. Okay, I can see. Well, again, 100%. I can see why that would have been a disappointment, knowing what an end game could be for Facebook with that platform. I'm
Facebook's end game will be owning your personality.
Yeah, I'm so excited for VR. Every time it comes up, I just get stoked again. consumer version Valve this year, October, I think it was. If anybody can remember. Adam?
I have stopped caring about Oculus for now.
No. Valve's.
Oh yes, like November, I think. It's end of year, basically.
Okay.
Super ambitious.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's so soon. Like that is so soon. They had to have started on the idea immediately after the Oculus announcement. They had to have been gearing for that.
Of course. If they're ready for a consumer launch in 2015, for sure. Because look at Project Morpheus, probably won't be seen until 2016 either, right? And they announced that a long time ago. So yeah, I'm excited to see this step in. Again, it's going to be a first wave of a first generation of a new technology. It could bomb. It could be amazing. But I think I'm excited to see it start finally this year. I'm excited to see it start. I'm looking forward to this technology for sure. Okay, so on to my number one, and then we're gonna say goodbye to everybody. My number one most disappointing game. I don't know. I don't think anybody else can relate to this. I tend to actually bring this series up a lot, but I still enjoyed it. But I think it was because I had some rose-tinted glasses on. Resistance 2. Resistance 1 was such an amazing game. Spent so much time to it, and Resistance 2 I thought was still good because it expanded on some more of the universe, but it, just in scale compared to the first one, like it didn't have enough like more to it to say that it was a better game than the first. I think the first was for sure the best. 3 was amazing. I don't know if you guys have played them, but yeah, Resistance 2 just it lacked kind of the freshness that I thought Resistance 1 had, and it just kind of they changed. What did they change? I forget. But there's a few things I just didn't like that they changed it, and the guns didn't seem as creative as the first one game had. It lacked that kind of, I guess, creativity, for a better lack of a better word, creativity that the first one brought to me, and I didn't put as much time into it as I had the first. Me and my brother spending hours a day. So yeah, Resistance 1 or Resistance 2 would be my number one most disappointing game. Again, I think I'm the only one in this podcast that have played that series. Anybody? Yeah, I'm the only one.
I
you guys
played
have played
it,
right?
like I rented it once.
Okay.
Basically.
So, not to directly insult it or your opinions, Brody, but it always came off to me like a quick game in the same vein as like Haze, or there was another one out at the time, and Killzone as well, where it's like they're just pumping out these games, these shooters, to just get them on the platform. I know it's not that, but that's what it seemed like in the advertising to me at the time.
Oh, fair enough. Well, I think that's what Resistance 2 was more of, right? And that's why, for me, it kind of lacked what I got from the first one.
Plus, I was kind of soured on Sony exclusive shooters after Killzone was so billed as the Halo killer, and then it was an okay game, but I'm like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, and actually, you know what? Now that you bring that up, in the same vein, Killzone 3, for me, was also one of the most disappointing games I've played. The ending, this is exactly what Charles had brought up before. There's this big build up, and you're waiting for this thing to happen, and it's just the quick, easy, cheap way out. I'm like, the hell was that? I remember at like the end of Resistance 2. I shed a tear even, but at the end of Killzone 3, I was just, this is dumb. Why did I just do this? So that's another honorable mention, Killzone 3, for sure. So thanks for bringing that up. But I can see where you got that. But yeah, Resistance 2 for sure was kind of that, let's pump out a shooter kind of thing. But I liked 1 just with the creativity, with the weapons more specifically. That was cool to see, because I had never played any. It was Jak and Daxter, I think. No, Jack and Daxter, the ones with the cool guns, right? Or Ratchet and
And-
Clank.
It's Ratchet and Clank.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Ratchet and Clank. I always mix those two up. Yeah, Ratchet and Clank. I never played those, so I'd never seen the cool guns they always come up with. So it was cool to see that in a more like serious take in a game for Insomniac. Yeah, so that's my number one. Those are our most disappointing games. I want to hear from viewers just silently watching us. It's kind of creepy. Talk to us. Feel free to leave some comments in the Q&A or on the YouTube video itself, and so we can see what you're saying. We love when people join in the conversation with us and talk with us. Some of the links we talked about are posted in that showcase there, so you can check the links that we talked about throughout the episode. Some
Brody,
videos and
share
stuff.
that video.
Which one's
Share
that? Okay. We're gonna talk about or we're gonna post a video Rip Oculus Rift. You guys can check that out after we're done the podcast here. It is in the showcase. There you go.
Good.
Good. I had to. The president told me to do it. So for now, we're gonna say goodbye. Finish off. We'll be around next week. Again, that's we're gonna be trying to switch over actually platforms to Twitch. So stay tuned to the Gamers Roundtable show on YouTube. Just for an announcement, I'll put up a quick announcement if we're going to Twitch where you can find us. But we're going to try that, so stay tuned. We'll let you know. But for now, if not, we'll be back here 7 p.m. EST, and you can join us, talk about video games and all that wonderful stuff. For now, we're going to say goodbye to the people that like to talk about video games. Down there, we got Adblock Adam. Thanks for coming out, Mr. President. Oh, Star Wars. And next one, we've got the terrible internet guy, Brayden. Thanks for coming out.
My camera on it and the internet sucked. I hate games. Did I
was
cut
hoping
out?
that would happen.
Not only did you
Whatever.
cut out, but you also cut out and just made like a spectacular amount of no sense.
Oh, that was wonderful.
Sorry.
Oh, that's amazing. And finally, beside him, we've got the good old faithful Charles. You can follow Charles at Cruels, Trolls on the Twitter and twitch.tv/Trolls. Thanks for coming out, Charles, and having some great internet.
Yep. Thanks for having great internet.
And myself, LeafX, you can follow me on Twitter at LeafX. You can also, again, go to youtube.com/GamersRoundtable to see when we're going to be switching over to Twitch. I'll give you details for all our Twitch stuff there when we finally get on that. Go there, stay tuned. Thanks for coming out. Thanks for joining us talking about video games. Again, next week, 7 p.m., we'll be back. Who knows what platform. But good to see you, and as always, keep gaming hard.
Fuck Rogers.